and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks Data. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who has only built 7 traps, but those traps have only taken him 7 days to build. It's Norbert Morvan.
Get to the chopper! Ah!
So we just talked about the movie Cube, which is a massive trap. Now, what do you think? Trap. So is that why you picked this trap, to discuss this data piece? Is that kind of why you were thinking about doing this?
You know what? Cube and Predators have a lot in common. A small group of people trapped in a hostile place looking for either A, exit, or B, just being able to survive, baby. That's what it's all about.
I wrote this because while watching Predators, I just thought to myself, there's a 50-second scene in this. And so Predators is about, how do they, first and foremost, the Predators hunt these people down. They put them in individual ships, and then they send them to a hunting planet in the middle, in another galaxy. So this is very expensive. I don't know who's funding this, by the way. This is this is like the gas, how much is the gas on spaceships? Do they have, is it atomic fuel?
You have to assume that the Predator economy is totally based on human skulls, and you figure that's what you just give in trade for fuel and food.
So they barter to get people from all around the galaxy to this planet?
Totally. They just make the Predators and then, okay, now my gas tank is full, baby.
I'll give you 3 skulls for 3 lightning rods. So
exactly.
This scene, it's 50 seconds. And in this scene, so I did the math, right? I figured out that this is incorrect, but there's 1,300 feet of vine, rope, and cords. There's 2 large pieces of deadfall that weigh at least 750 pounds each. There's 100 sharpened branch pieces. There's 30 sharpened pieces of thick, squat wood. There's 12.4 feet of sharpened poles placed inside a 10-foot hole that the guy made. There's 20 feet of thick branches for the wooden large spike trap, and a bunch of palm fronds and branches to cover up the tripwires and holes. Now, this guy who is building it, and he does have a name in the comic book. His name is Drake. Now, while he's building this, so I'm watching this movie, and my first thought is, who built this? And it turns out that it's one man. So one man is on a hunter planet with no weapons, and he spends a total of, so I did all the math right here. So he spends 11 days to build the massive trap. So I'm watching this. The Predators were watching him make this, weren't they?
Well, okay. Consider the following. I saw a map the other day that showed the fires in the Amazon that are currently happening.
Yeah.
And they superimposed that over a map of the United States. It took up most of the East Coast, say up until Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
So imagine how huge the Amazon rainforest is, because that's not the whole rainforest that's on fire. This planet is probably bigger than the Amazon. You see Lawrence Fishburne, he's able to weave his way in and out of the movie and not get killed by the Predator. So they drop you there. If you are noticeable, they'll come after you. If you can hide, you can hide. So I think it's possible for him to put this together, even in that long period of time. I don't know what he was eating, but, he's got special forces skills. I think it's possible, baby.
This guy is hacking and...
Yeah, he's making noise. That's true.
Sawing, and he's grunting, and he's pulling, and he's cutting.
Fair enough.
So, but you're right. I mean, it's a massive jungle. But these Predators, they have their infrared, right? They have technology beyond us.
Beyond us. Far beyond us, yeah.
So this clip, right? Just when you watch this in the theaters, did you think about this trap at all, or no? Did it bother you?
It reminded me of what Schwarzenegger did in the very first Predator movie. Yep. Because he took that clearly should have taken more than one night. All the stuff he's doing. Because I was a Boy Scout once, and I couldn't sharpen a stick quickly as he could. Okay? And that man is a trained professional, and he sharpened many sticks. And he's bending wood and get to the... Look, it's madness. There's no way. But you know what? They're aliens hunting people. That's where I put it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I made some assumptions, and you read the article. This really helped me. So in this thing, I'm like, he couldn't have sharpened all those sticks. How did he sharpen those? Well, apparently, in the comic book, he stole one of the smart discs from the Predators. So that explains everything that's been sharpened.
Okay.
Right?
That's a 5-minute job then. That's a 5-minute job for a stick.
He's hacking those things up. He's doing a pretty good job. So he worked every day from sun up to sundown. I'm thinking he worked a solid 12 hours with a few needed breaks.
Well, he probably needed a minute or two to just enjoy the scenery and ponder his existence. Yeah,
look at the different planets, get a little esoteric. And then he did all the work by himself. And so I came up with that assumption. And in the comic book, Predator's Welcome to the Jungle prequel comic, released by Dark Horse, his team was killed and he was the only one left. So he was blinded by revenge and he set up this trap. So he wanted to kill predators. But the thing is, the predators walked around it and just shot him in the gut.
Yeah. That's what they always do.
So you're watching this, and that's why I wanted to do this, because they do, like, somebody argued to me that they just drop people off on the planet and then they hunt them later. Like, they just ship people there, then people show up. But there were predators on the planet, or that's not their technical name, of course. It's not the predators, but
Yatuja, something like that. Yeah,
and it's just it's quicker to say predators. So there were predators on the planet at the time.
Correct.
So he wasn't dead that long. Like, decomposition in that jungle would have been quick.
It's shortened. What the guys say, Topher Grace, 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't think they disappeared in those 2 weeks.
No.
I guess that's why I had fun with this. Now, did you see the drawing that my wife did the drawing on the Predators thing?
So it was amazing.
So I draw up these stupid things and she does the graphics for me. But I think it really
was awesome.
I think it really sells the trap because you can see it. So if you go to moviesfilmsandflicks.com, you type in analyzing the unsuccessful
MFF special. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You got it. I like the way you say it.
MFF special, analyzing the unsuccessful and unnecessarily large trap in predators.
So you did better than me.
Thank you.
If you run to the right, you're gonna fall. You're gonna get whacked by a spike trap.
Correct.
If you run straight, you got these little darts coming at you. And if you keep going, you're in the hole with spikes. So he wanted to kind of bottle them in. He wanted to create something that led them into that hole, and he would be waiting with a gun. And so I figured that out by just watching the clip so many times.
Well done, man.
I guess I took a guesstimation of all the things that dropped because he had to spin so those things shot into the ground. They couldn't just drop. He had to make each one individually propelled.
There's some tensile strength. Yeah, he figured out for sure.
This Drake knows his stuff.
He does, man. He does.
And so I probably rewound this 50 times. Yeah. I planned the layout. I had a very rough sketch, right? And then I kind of planned it out from there. But this seems right. I don't know. When you read this article, what did you think about this and comparing it to the scene?
My favorite part of the entire article is the little circle that says hole with spikes. It's the greatest thing ever. Because those little spikes are there, and it's absolutely a hole, and it's blue, and on the outside, it's kind of purple. And in the inside, there's some little brown spikes, and those spikes absolutely look deadly. And let me tell you something, man. There is a large gap that you left, absolutely, on the left side, that once you hit the trip, what if the Predators did want to go left? It wasn't a well-planned thing.
Yep.
Just like in the first Predator movie, they weren't exactly sure about the agility and abilities of the creature. So they figured that just like them, these things just run around on the ground. And that's why he made this ridiculous plan, this ill-fated plot to kill the creature.
I appreciate that he was proactive, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I just think it's interesting that this movie went that far to have this. They built the trap so it almost kills our heroes, or, well, in air quotes, protagonists.
Right.
Now,
it was homage.
And then they just make a joke. Yeah, you're right. An homage to Predator. But then they're just make a joke like, oh, yeah, they just walked around it and shot him.
Because that's Dark Horse, man. I've been reading these Dark Horse comics since high school. And they, for what it's worth, most of the stories in the Dark Horse canon of Predator and Aliens are better than the movies that have come out after. It's amazing.
Now, this Predators, I'm not going to say that I enjoyed it when I watched it, right? I mean, Nimrod Antel did a pretty good job. I wish Robert Rodriguez would have directed it. Holy crap, that'd have been sweet.
It would have been.
I don't know, I watched it. The only thing I didn't like was Adrian Brody's tough guy voice.
Because that's the Marky Mark school of acting, where anytime you got something important to say, you do it like this.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's all.
I don't remember him doing that in The Pianist, you know?
No, in The Pianist, he was too busy not eating. That was an intense film.
When he wasted that peach jam, the jar of fruit, and then it poured out, and then the little juice started spilling out of it.
Yes.
That scarred me.
Sad. Yeah. It was so sad, yeah.
And this is really random, but I had a short-lived radio show when I was in Florida State, and it was a morning radio show on Saturdays at 7 a.m. and we talked about movies.
No kidding.
Now, none of my hosts showed up because they were always hungover, so I had to do a lot of weird work on it. But one of my hosts got me in trouble. The co-host got me in trouble because he kept saying the pianist. Like, he's like, yeah, so the pianist, and he was doing it on purpose because we're college and we're 20 years old. But that got me in a lot of trouble, and so whenever I think of that movie, I kind of get rankled by it. I just had to tell you that real quick. But
that's dark.
I just love the visuals of this movie where, I don't know, I just like I did this because I just want to know what the guy had to go through to build all this. And
listen, you gotta understand, man, that just like a lot of things that happen in global military industrial complexes, you do far more than you have to kill somebody, just so that you can say, hey, look what I can do. You've got a board with a nail in it, but I've got a tree and holes with spikes, and I've got these things to drag you into the hole with spikes, because that's clearly the hero of my trap, the hole with spikes. And I also love, by the way, in your diagram, spike trap, which is set up like a giant fly swatter.
Yeah, Megan did an amazing job. So my goal on these articles is a kind of a look into the inside of how I write them. I realize how silly they are. And I realize a lot of people could say these are dumb. And
no.
And so, but for me, what Megan and I have worked on is I keep them very dry. Like, so you look at this drawing, hole with spikes, tree, spike trap. It's very dry. And that's
they're
kind
all
of
brilliant.
Yeah, that's kind of my humor, very dry, when I do these at least, because then people watch it and you can laugh. When you read my reaction to you had my reaction. I just want you having a chuckle. Like
that's exactly what happened. And one of my favorite movies of all time is number 29 on your list. What was the guy's blood pressure in Dawn of the Dead? In the middle of a full-fledged zombie apocalypse, inside the mall, there are hundreds of zombies. This guy says, you know what? I'm going to check my pressure because I've not been feeling good lately. That's brilliant. I love it, man.
So how about we'll talk about that one next.
No problem.
Next time we do, I'll bring you on and we'll talk about Dawn of the Dead. I called several nurses. I called people that I know that drive ambulances. I really looked into this guy's blood pressure. But so I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we did this, dude. I'm glad you like the drawing and you like the hole with spikes.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
So how far did McConaughey jump in Reign of Fire? Also a great article.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. That's the one that's the most debated, actually. That's the one that...
It's a great question.
I stand by my answer. I really do.
You should. Because he knew that it was over. He knew.
I love that movie.
Let's get into that another time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
All right,
absolutely.
So we'll talk about that too. I love it. All right, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Nobert Morvan, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks Data. We'll see you next week.
Peace.